All right, welcome back everybody to day 5 of Foundations of Programming. Today we're gonna go ahead and add on to last week's lecture. We started talking about JavaScript and how JavaScript relates to Python. We talked about the differences and similarities between them. Uh, Pretty much just learning a brand new language. You guys had a couple exercises to work on over the weekend. And if you feel like you still don't have a good hang of JavaScript, that's expected. I don't expect you guys to be good at JavaScript right now at all. You're going to get better at JavaScript as you progress through your time here at Platoon. Do the exercises and assignments that you will be doing, not just here, but in the actual program itself. Um, you know, once again, coding is one of those things that you just can't watch a video and be like, I got it, and then move forward. You have to kind of code, mess up, have the syntax errors, get those bugs, debug it, and then get that eureka moment where like, oh, dude, yes, now I get it, right? Um, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and start sharing my screen. Um, and we should all be seeing the slides for technically this is lesson 5, but the slide still says lesson 4. Remember I did create that new lesson of the JavaScript crash course, so it's technically lesson 5, but all right. So a computer can only do what you tell it to do. And this is in regards to think about your browser, right? Everything's gonna happen in your browser is gonna come directly from what your commands tell it to do. Your computer, when it runs a for loop, it's because you told it to run a for loop, right? When you told it to iterate through a list of characters, it's because you told it to. If you ever get an issue with your code, it's not your computer's fault, it's your fault because you did it specifically tell your computer how it should work. And everything that we do in coding is really just a set of instructions, right? I'm sure you've heard of that, right? What is a program? It's a set of instructions that we write to tell a computer. A coding language is the language that we use, quite literally language that we use to speak to this computer. And a great video I'd love to show every single time that we get into this part of the lecture is going to be the peanut butter and jelly sandwich video, which I believe, raise your hand if you've seen it or I've shown it to you guys here. All right, I'm not going to bother showing it. Okay, so you've seen it. I think I showed it to Intro to Coding, right? But this is a prime example of what I referred to that a program is just going to be an instruction, a set of instructions that you give a computer, and it's only going to do what you tell it to do. So you have to be very verbose with your instructions. Now, that brings us to JavaScript, right? JavaScript is going to be one of those languages that we're going to utilize for our front end to add some kind of functionality to our web page, right? Up to this point, you probably had, some headers, some images. You might have messed around with the input tags or button tags and whatnot, but none of it did anything, right? So we will now be using JavaScript, one of the high-level languages, to create instructions to make our program do something. Now, what is a high-level language? You might have heard this term before. You might hear it later. Really, in layman terms, a high-level language is just a language that's easily be readable to you in English, right? It's human readable, and it's farther away from messing around with the hardware of your computer, where other languages like C++ might have a little bit more control over some certain stuff like memory, right? And they're not as English friendly, right? So they don't resemble the English language as much as a language like Python or JavaScript, right? Those languages also are contain object-oriented programming. They're visual languages. Other languages like assembly, if you ever heard of it, one of the if the first or one of the first languages out there. I've never coded in assembly. I've never tried to. I hear they teach it in college. I've never tried it. But that's not very user friendly, right? If you were to look at any of the code, it would confuse you compared to looking at something like Python. But JavaScript is going to be one of the high level languages we're going to use. And this language specifically, it has a lot of functions. It's primarily used in front end cases. Can it be used for your backend? Sure. But that's not, you're not going to build a huge scalable application with a backend structure out of JavaScript. I'll tell you that right now. Can you do it for a small application? Absolutely. But you typically want to use a different language for your backend. So JavaScript uh, also consists of 90% of your web pages out in the internet right now. 90% of the websites out there in the internet are built off of JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So let's skip this one. I mean to remove this slide every single time. So what makes up a web page? We already seen something very similar to this already, right? We saw the images of the skeleton, and then the human with the skin, and then the functionality, right? So a web page consists of three different things, which is going to be your HTML, CSS, and your JavaScript. The HTML is the structure, right? This is the skeleton of your web page, right? This is what structures the content on your page from top to bottom. You've already seen that work in real time. The CSS is the styling. This is what gives that visual appearance, that the aesthetic of your web page to make it appealing to the human eye when they reach your landing page. And the JavaScript is going to be the functionality. Everything from clicking the search bar to clicking a button, the drop down scroll bars, to even moving your mouse left and right on your browser. There is some functionality happening underneath the screen. Stuff like that's being tracked by your browser and you don't even realize it, right? So today we're going to be using JavaScript to be able to bring our web pages to life, make them a little bit more dynamic. Now, none of these exercises that we're going to do is going to be an amazing web page. Really, we're doing small exercises so you can learn how everything works together, and then you can always bring all these skills together and make a complete web page, which is what the goal is for this week. All right. So an important concept to understand, and it's okay if you don't understand it from the very beginning, the DOM and what the DOM is. Now, the DOM isn't something you can visually see. The DOM is something that's happening underneath the hood on your browser. And the DOM stands for the Document Object Model, right? It is a programming interface for your web document. The best way I can explain it is when you open up your web page on your browser, your browser is going to make a copy or a replica of your web page, right? So here's like the structure. Your window opens up the document and creates a replica of your web page. And it looks like a tree structure, very similar to this. Your browser is going to use this DOM and it's going to manipulate the DOM, and the DOM is going to update your actual web page. Let's see if there's a better way of me explaining that. Think of it like a puppet, right? You got a puppet and it's got strings. There's two ways of moving that puppet. I could quite literally go up to the puppet, grab its arms and legs, and move them left, right, up, and down to move it myself, right? But maybe I don't want to grab it manually myself. So I connect strings to it, right? And then I move those strings and the puppet moves. That's kind of what the DOM is doing here. The DOM is that mediator between me and the puppet. So I manipulate the DOM, the document object model, and the DOM is used to update the web page. Does this make sense so far? Right? It's not something that you can visually see. This is really more of a concept that your computer is doing, really your browser is doing. And this is how it's updating your web page. So what we are going to be doing today is we're going to be using JavaScript to talk to the DOM, to give commands to the DOM, so the DOM can update our web page, right? So it represents a page so that programs can change the document structure, style, and content. Once again, right? A copy of the page is created. This is called the DOM. We are going to manipulate the DOM, and the DOM is what updates our web page for us. Awesome. So we talked about linking CSS before. Now, to link JavaScript, it's going to have two different areas you can do it. One will be at the very bottom of your body page, right? Not outside of it, within it, right? It has to be within the body page. And this is going to be done via a script tag. Unlike the CSS that it was linking it, right? It had a link between a style sheet. Here for JavaScript, we're using a script tag. Now, you can also do this by applying it into the head instead, right? So both of these will work. Now, I'll talk to you about the pros and cons of these in a bit. On your script tag, you're going to put the type, which as you can see here, it's text/JavaScript. And the source is going to be the app.js. Notice, right, the difference. In the link tag, we use the href attribute. And the script tag, we use the source attribute. So you might get confused. I do it all the time, right? If your JavaScript is not working, check the attribute you set it in. I don't know how many times I told you I've done it where instead of putting the source tag, I put href. It happens to the best of us. Now, let's talk about the script tag being in head and body. Why would we do one or the other one? When your browser loads your web page, it's going to load it from top to bottom. So this is all happening within like a span of a second or 2 seconds, but that is just enough to mess things up. When it loads my page, let's say it only loads the head part of my page. So what's going to get loaded in? Obviously, my CSS and my scripts, right? So my script's working. Stand by. Let me retrace my steps. Let's not use that scenario. Right now, in my current scenario, I have the script tag in my body tag. Okay, everyone with me? All right. In this scenario, I have the script tag in my body tag, just like this image here on the left side. When I load my web page, the only thing that's going to load when the head loads is the style sheet, which is fine. It gets to the body. It's going to load up my divs, right? Let's say hypothetically, I have a search bar here, right? It's still loading my web page. And let's say I have like images or different buttons. It loads those up too. I click on a button or I click on the search bar to search for something before my entire web page loads up. What do you think is going to happen? Well, nothing. Because if it's still loading my body and I'm loading up different items before I get to my script tag, when I press a button, it won't work because the button's functionality is linked to the script tag. And because the script tag is at the bottom of the document, it won't load it until the very end. And sometimes that might take a split of a second, right? So it almost sounds like negligible, right? It's not that big of a difference, Roger. You think. But you know, how many times are you just browsing through web pages? You're going back and forth, clicking stuff because let's say, you already understand the progress or flow for whatever web page you're working with, and you click on a button, it doesn't work. And then you click on it, after a second or two, it works then. That's what's happening. Now, that might not be a big issue. But what if your script tag, right, that's connecting your JavaScript, has some kind of JavaScript that's supposed to talk to your server, your backend, grab your data, like your information, like your username content, your profile image, your bio on your Facebook profile, right? Like all the stuff that your Facebook displays for you. That's not just sitting in your browser. That's somewhere in some server. So your browser is running the script that's going to talk to a server somewhere in someone's attic. It has to grab your information, bring it back and then display it on your screen. Well, what happens if the HTML that's supposed to represent the image of your profile picture and your name and your bio is trying to load, but the script is still not done retrieving the information from the backend? Well, it's not going to load your image. It's going to look like blank information, or you might get an error, right? And these are things that you need to take into consideration when how you load your script. So to prevent that, what we do is we put it in the head. And we additionally add this additional attribute that's asynchronous. So what this is going to do is it's going to load up your web page. It's going to get to the script tag, and it's going to make sure the entire script is loaded up before the rest of your document loads, right? So I recommend, and probably the only way you should do it moving forward, is put your script in the head, right? You're going to see that people, if you look at people's YouTube channel, you'll see it. They'll put it at the very bottom. You can additionally open up a script tag, open and close script tag, and then put script directly on this HTML document. Don't do that. Absolutely don't do that. You might see people do that. Don't do it. Separation of concerns, right? Do you have any questions about linking your JavaScript file to your HTML, and the pros and cons are both?
Just to reiterate, you said the async type will make sure that the JavaScript loads before the rest, right?
Correct. It's not
Okay.
async type. The type is its own attribute. Async itself is just a different attribute. But yeah,
Right. I guess
because
it's like a flag or
right.
yeah, okay.
Why would anybody ever do the bottom script?
I'm not gonna lie to you, Alex. I don't know. I have no
Okay.
idea. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I would say it depends. The only scenario, the to my own knowledge, is if you have information that you want to display as soon as possible to the user, right? If you have a lot of stuff that needs to be loaded up, right? If the imagery, the CSS that you're trying to load up on your screen to display to the user as fast as possible, because once you start working with a company, you're going to talk about how can we improve our website. Our front end page, our login page currently takes 3 seconds to load up. How can we reduce it from 3 seconds to 2 seconds? Excuse my language, I shit you not. These are the conversations that you're going to be having, right? So you're going to have to find a way to improve performance. So
Okay.
these might be things that you might take into consideration. How stuff is loaded up or mounted onto your page. How should data be handled, right? That's
Okay.
just a very small, straight up example. The best way I can explain to you why you might consider where you load up your script or how your scripts are loaded or how data in general is being loaded onto your web page. You start thinking about performance, right?
Yeah.
Because how many times you go to a government website and it takes forever to load up, right? Stuff like that, and it annoys you. Like this
Yeah.
trash. Like this is the best we can do. We're the government, right? You think about these things, so it's stuff like that, right?
I'm always thinking that.
All right,
I just thought it was for continuity. Everything in the government takes forever.
all right. Let's move forward. So going back to the subject about the DOM, we mentioned when we load up our website, our browser, our window is going to create a replica, pretty much a tree structure of our application called the DOM, the document object model, that we can use to directly manipulate our web page. Well, here is a very simple example of how we are going to achieve that. Uh, the command is going to be started off with document, right? So it's going to be a JavaScript command that you can use in your JavaScript file. And it's going to quite literally be called documents, right? We are referencing the document, or in short, the DOM, right? And here, very briefly, we're saying document dot query selector. Use your context clues. What do you think we're doing here in query selector, and then within the parentheses, what do you think it's trying to do here?
Select based on the class.
Say that again.
select it based on the class. I'm
Right.
assuming written in CSS.
Yes, absolutely. We're querying something, right? Querying, we're pretty much searching through, right? A selector. So query selector, we're trying to select what? Notice the hashtag. Really, this is an ID, not not a tag. I'm sorry, not a class, but it's an ID, right? How do we know which is ID or classes? Hashtags are towards IDs. The periods are for classes. But we're trying to grab something here by its ID called turn red, right? So we're saying, hey, Dom, I want to grab an element with the ID of turn red. What else are they adding on to this command? They're doing add event listener. What do you think this command is doing? Someone.
It's telling the computer to wait for the action.
Yeah, we're listening for something. We're listening for an action. This action, to be specific, is the click action. And notice that they're adding another command here within these parameters called turn red function. Well, what is that turn red function doing? Someone try to use your context clues and tell me what to say. Alex.
It's calling the turn red function to I guess turn the background color red.
Yeah, absolutely. The body specifically, which I can assume here is probably the background. Oh yeah, it is background color. So it's grabbing the body tag, it's grabbing its style attribute, it's selecting its background color from the style, and it's setting it to red, right? So within this JavaScript command, we have three different events. We're grabbing three different things. One has the ID of turn red, one has the ID of turn blue, and the other has the ID of turn purple. All three of these have an event listener that we're adding to it. And we're listening for the click action on each one of these. And for each one of these, they have their individual function, turn red, turn blue, and turn purple. Right? Does everyone understand what this piece of code is kind of doing here?
I have a question real quick.
Yes.
So if I wanted to do it by class, I would just do that as a period instead of the hash.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm going to show you what it looks like, and then we're going to talk about these commands that I just showed you. So this is background colors. It should already be complete. You see here the script tags already loaded up. There's a couple stuff here. We have the ID of turn red, turn blue, and turn purple. These IDs are given to three list items, right? We see this. Nothing crazy. In the script tag, we see here we're connecting app.js. Just like I showed you guys in the slides, they had the script tag here. Let's look at app.js. So app.js, it has that code, right? It's quite literally just a JavaScript file with the commands of document.querySelector and how it's grabbing the different elements. Well, let's go ahead and open this HTML file on a live server, or a 5 server, I guess is what it's called now. And here is my application. Now, within here, when I click the list items, turn red, turn blue, turn purple, it is changing the color of my background. So it's working exactly how the JavaScript file made it sound like, right? Cool. Now, let's go ahead and expand a little bit more on what these document commands are. What are they, Roger? Where did you get these? Is this magic? Absolutely not. I like to use W3 Schools, one of my favorite websites, for quick references. It doesn't have in-depth of everything, but it has a little bit of everything, which is what I really enjoy. So if you go to JavaScript, you can scroll down all the way close to the end, you're going to find the JS HTML DOM section. Here's going to talk to you about what the DOM is. Right here, it's showing you once again the tree-like representation of your website. Right, it starts off with the HTML tag. Notice that it breaks down to the two elements, head and body, and then both these elements break down to their individual branches. Right, so this is how the DOM is pretty much recreating your web page. JavaScript gets all the power it needs to create dynamic HTML. With the object model, JavaScript gets the power to do it, right? So JavaScript is utilizing this DOM, this model that your browser is creating to manipulate the web page, right? It can change HTML elements in the page, attributes, CSS. It can do a lot, right? You can read more about it if you want some more information about the DOM and whatnot. It is a difficult concept to understand. Trust me, it took me a long time to wrap my head around what the heck is a DOM. So don't feel bad if you're a little confused. But the DOM comes pre-built with functionality that we are going to leverage to our advantage, right? And we can see that, I believe, under DOM methods. DOM methods can show us what different elements it comes with. These are a handful. It's not all of them, but here we see get element by ID, right? Which you can kind of assume is going to grab only an element by the ID. Talks about inner HTML properties. It's not a lot, really. This is really upsetting. Let's check the next one. DOM document. Okay, here's a little bit more in depth. Get element by ID, get elements by tag name, get elements by class name. It talks a little bit about attributes. You call the elements, or you grab the element and you can use like inner HTML. This changes the HTML content. You can do attribute, style properties. Here's some other document commands. So you're going to need this for later in our exercises. Document.create element. It creates an HTML element. Document.remove child. Notice that these commands are taking another element as an argument. The remove child removes an HTML element. Append child adds an HTML element. Give me an example where I might want to append a child to another HTML element. I'll give you one. Think about an unordered list or an ordered list. I might want to append a list item into it, right? Like nested within it. So I might want to append the child to that if I wanted to add additional list items, right? So think about stuff like that. Same thing if I want to remove a child, I might want to remove that list element from the unordered list, right? Because it's a child. If you guys recall that interaction between the elements, how they're like that dynamic of parent and child, right? This is where it's going to become important to understand that what is a child and what is a parent. But yeah, so these are some of the elements that come from the DOM. If you want more, you can definitely check out the actual JavaScript documentation. This isn't the original documentation, right? It's more like a crash course guide or like a quick reference guide that I like to use. But there's a lot more other stuff here. JavaScript DOM commands. Let's see. Document object model. See if we can find anything quick here. Document. Yeah, document.children.child element count character set. There's a lot of different commands out there. Obviously not all of these useful. Not all is useful at all. Deprecated properties. And be aware that sometimes you'll see stuff like this, stuff that isn't used anymore, but it'll show you here in the list items. But there's a lot of stuff out here. So document elements, we're not gonna go through all of it. Obviously, just look at this. Absolutely no way I can show you all this, right? So we're going to use these methods as we encounter a need for them, right? For example, let's say you're working on your application and you're like, I wish I could dynamically update the title page when I do this. Well, how could I update the title page? Is there a way to manipulate a title tag from the head? And that's when you would look this up, right? So we'll engage these issues as we encounter them, because it's a lot of stuff to talk about. This is a crash course, but that should give you an idea already so far of how we would manipulate certain content on our page. Now, let's go ahead and come back to the slides. These are one of the assignments that kind of just throw you into the deep end. So really the best way that you guys are gonna learn is to give it a try. So the JavaScript student practice background colors HTML, the one I just had pulled up, you are going to add to it. The intent of today's first exercise is to try your best to recreate what you just see on my screen right now, which is the changing of the entire page, right, for the colors. Make sure you add the additional colors. Make sure you line them up left to right, side by side. They are about a third of the way down on the page. Notice that when you change the color of something, these do not have a border, so don't put borders on these for your end product. I know you won't probably find this image. That's okay. Don't stress about this image. I've never had a student find it. So don't stress about this image. Really, what you should worry about is the buttons. The difficult one is going to be the random function here. So you'll be able to get blue, green, red, yellow, orange, and then create the random function. You're going to be very tempted to copy and paste the code from the other buttons. Don't do it. You can read it and then kind of type it out. Get that muscle memory going using the functions and stuff. I know you'll be very tempted to copy and paste. And then get some CSS rocking so you can make it look like this. Do I have any questions?
Yeah, so query selector and add event listeners, those are DOM methods, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so where did click come from?
Yeah. So click is click is something that already happens on your browser. It is an argument that your browser takes in. Right. So notice here, in the inspect tools, there's already a tab here where I can check how many event listeners are on my web page. One of them is the click one. As you can see here, it's the turn red. So event listeners is something that your browser already listens to. It's an attribute. It's an existing concept. We're just passing it into the DOM. I wonder if I can show you something like go in here. I know there's a way to show you, but as I mentioned to you before, everything on your browser, when you have this browser open, your window is tracking your movement. It tracks when you move your mouse left, right. It tracks when you click down on your button, and then as you hold, it even tracks when you let go, right? It tracks when you're hovering over another element. These are events that your browser is aware of and is listening to them, right? So that's really what click is. It's an event that our DOM is able to take in, right? So add event listener, go to the definition. When you look at the code for it, here's the code underneath the hood that actually codes this out. It takes the first argument is type. Type, and it's a string. As you saw, we typed in the string of click. So when it runs this method, it's going to check this first argument. It's going to check if the string is equal to click. And if so, it's going to make it function in a certain manner. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's just comparing the string that you pass in there. If you pass in the string of pizza, obviously nothing's going to happen because it doesn't recognize what pizza is. This is a built-in function, right? It's quite literally like you could quite literally create this function yourself. Create a function that if you pass in a string, if it matches that string, then return true. If it doesn't match that string, return false. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I was just going over the JS and the HTML file, and I couldn't find where click was, so I didn't know where it was receiving that string from.
That's
So
fair.
that explained it.
Yeah, it's a built-in function. You have to look at the documentation to see what arguments it takes. Let's look at this right here. DOM add event listener. There it is. Here it's a built-in method, and we can quite literally probably see with the options that it takes. So see, these are different ways that you can use it. You can pass in type and then what you're listening for. The other way is by adding options or use capture. I'm not sure how to use that. For the type here, it says is a case-sensitive string representing the event type to listen for. We can probably click event type and see what kind of event types there is.
Oh, okay. So like hover would be one probably.
Right, hover
Oh,
would definitely
okay.
be one.
Okay.
Hover, drag and drop, wheel, focus, form, gestures. There's a lot of different things that it listens to. Click was just one of them that I know off the top of my head, and one of the most common ones you will use. I promise you. Everything you do on your page, if you want to go to the next page, you click an arrow, right? You click done. You click submit. Everything you do on a web page requires click, so everyone knows that click is an event. But yes, hover definitely is one. When you hover over a button and it changes colors, right? Like right now, I'm hovering over this div right here, and it changes blue. This changed green. This changed purple. There is a JavaScript function here that when the mouse is hovering over it, it changes the CSS style property of background color and gives it a new color. This is all JavaScript right here. All this changing of colors, right? So hover definitely is one. Does that answer your question?
For sure.
Awesome. So time is 7:20. Let's go ahead and work till 7:30. At 7:30, we're going to take our first 10-minute break of the night, and we'll come back at 7:40. And hopefully somebody has something to demonstrate. I will see you guys in a little bit.
And so I got a call and got kicked out of the audio, so I didn't hear what the assignment was.
Oh, it's going to be the
What am I
background.
working on?
Yeah, let me pause it. Welcome back, everybody. Who wants to go ahead and demonstrate their progress? First of all, who was able to finish it? If anyone finished it, you can go. I figured that's okay. Who wants to showcase what they were able to accomplish within a lot of time? Come on, give me that bed. Thomas,
Hmm.
you want to
Uh,
showcase yours?
sure.
Let's get it, man.
Like I have almost no CSS going, but
Okay.
we'll,
Did you
we'll
get the random function working?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I like to see that. The CSS is
Okay.
no big deal. But I can see it working. That's good.
Okay. Let me share. Make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Share. Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so there's the blue, the green, red, the yellow, the orange, and then the random.
That's sweet. Good stuff, my dude. Awesome. Good work. How'd you do the random? Can we see your function?
Uh, Give me a second here. The Okay, can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I did this. I used a switch.
Nice. Very elegant. I like it. Okay, so here Thomas is utilizing the random function that comes with JavaScript, math.random. Now I'm pretty sure you Googled this, and that's okay. I always have to Google it. When you use the random function in JavaScript, it gives you a number from like 0 to 1, right? It's a very weird number. It doesn't give you what you would expect for it to give you like in Python. So you have to do some math onto it to get an actual random number that's a normal number from a range of like 0 to whatever number you want to get it to. And that's what you see here that he's doing. Uh, I suck at math, so I'm not even going to try to explain what that code is doing, but I know that's probably giving him a random number between maybe like 0 or 1 and 6, something like that. Is that correct,
Yeah.
Thomas?
Yeah, it's math.rand will always give you something between 0 and 1,
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
always. And then you always have to multiply it by your min and max, and then determining if you want to include your, because it always includes your min, but it's not inclusive of your max. So if you want to include your max, you have to do the additional +1 addition.
right, right. Yeah. So it's always a little weird. But so he's getting a random number, and then what he's doing there, he's combining it with a mapped out floor, so he can round down, right? Using that to get his random number. So it's the same thing that Python could do with a simple command, but you have to go, add an additional step or two. But same functionality. And then he then uses that rand color to switch it, right? Really, the switch case is an if else statement here. It's just a little bit more elegant to look at, right? Uh, Pretty much he grabs the rand color and he checks whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and depending on which one passes the switch case, it'll run that code, right? Whether it's turn red, turn blue, turn green, turn yellow, or turn orange, giving you the random effect, which is awesome. Good stuff. That's exactly what I was looking for. Does anybody have any questions on how Thomas here accomplishes tasks? Awesome. Alex, you're still eating. It's okay, my friend. You can you continue eating. No rush. But all right, let's go ahead and kind of move on. So you guys just have to watch me. I'm about to give you guys another assignment, so no rush. Go ahead and share my screen here. We talked already our introduction to using the DOM. We tried it out with the background color assignment. Now let's go ahead and move on a little bit more into something else, right? So we can adjust more than just background colors, right? We can manipulate stuff like inner text, right? So think about your if you wanted to change the content of a list item, of a title page, biography, you can switch that out with the term inner text, right? The attribute of inner text. Here we have the bad calculator. Actually, I'm going to put a pause on this. We're going to skip this. This is going to be an end of the day assignment because it could get difficult. Let's jump to day of the week instead. All right. So I've been meaning to switch the slides because the difficulty, it goes from 0 to 100 and then back to like 0 for no reason, uh, due to the flow of the slides. So, we're going to skip that calculator slide until the very end of this class. And we're gonna go to day of the week, right? So it's gonna be a very simple one. Quite literally, you're gonna have a header, right? We can kind of infer that this is probably a header that's asking us what is today. And we see two tags here. What do you think these tags are? What is the left one and what is the right one? The left is gonna be probably a label tag that we're going to use to label this input box, which I just gave you the answer to. Is going to be an input tag, right? Probably of type text, which we already know is a default, but it's always good to just be a little redundant, just make sure we add what type of type it is. And then lastly, we have a button here that says check. So what is this assignment? Well, the goal of this assignment is for you to pass in a day of the week, whether it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, etc., etc. And what this is going to do is going to check whether this is a weekday or a weekend, right? So either weekday or weekend. Let me go ahead and open up that folder readme. Um, Yeah, so complete the small application that lets the user know if they inputted a weekday, a weekend, or they gave an incorrect day of the week. Make sure your application is case insensitive. So Saturday with a capital S is treated the same as something like Saturday with Saturday all capitalized, or Saturday being what looks like almost like camel case, right? So no matter what they put in, you should be able to identify that either one of these is the same day. Now, how can we do that? How can we make sure that we are able to check for all three of these?
Regex.
Okay. Yes, but there's no need to overcomplicate it right off the bat. You're not wrong. That is a great way, especially if you're trying to find a scalable solution, to find every possible solution out there. Yes. But what's another
You
simple
just
way to do
convert
this?
it two upper, two lower.
Right. We could just automatically convert all the input we get to lowercase, right? And that way, no matter what kind of input we get, it's all lowercase letters. So we can just compare it to the lowercase version, right? So both of you are right, Thomas. You're not wrong. But I'm glad you said regex. And notice the different sides of the coin. One person like regex, and then Tony's like, bro, let's just lowercase everything. Right? It's the beauty of how both ways could work. Neither way is wrong. But there's different ways of doing this. Some I would say are a little bit better than others. Some work in better scenarios than others. But both are correct. Good stuff. Thanks for that, Thomas. You did, Tony. But yeah, so we might want to just kind of format everything before we get it, and then figure out what we're doing. So here we see the label that I mentioned, and then the input tag. This is a fairly simple one. Really, I need to click that up. This is here. Back to the assignment. You're going to be able to add some kind of text in here. You should be able to click check. And when you press the check button, this needs to grab the value that's been given inside this input tag and then display underneath here something like weekday or weekend, or say this is not a valid day, right? So we should be able to add an additional element down here or somewhere that we're going to tell them that this is not a valid day. Does that make sense, guys? All right. Let's go ahead and give this one 15 minutes. So let's go ahead and come back at 8:05. At 8:05, we'll come back. We'll have someone present very quickly. And then we're going to jump to the last assignment of the day, which is going to be the bad calculator. And this one's probably going to take you the longest. And you'll probably have to take it for homework, if anything. But it is a fairly long one. So right now, let's go ahead and knock out the day of the week, and then we'll come back to this. I will once again be here. So if anybody has any questions, do not hesitate to ask. I will be behind my camera. And let me pause recording quick. All right, so we are in our last stretch for today's lecture, really the last part of today's lecture too, which is going to be the bad calculator. Now, this is a code snippet that you're going to find the bad calculator's GS file. They're still using the add event listener for the click, but the functions are a little bit different, right? This kind of goes hand in hand with the one that we just did, using inner text and manipulating stuff. They have two functions like make 0, add 3, and they're quite literally doing math here. Excuse me. Now, this is being done on what you're going to find to look like this right here, which is the bad calculator. And this is going to help you manipulate different parts of, your web page using the DOM. So it just adds more to the skill of making your web page do something. We'll go ahead and open this up on Five server. And as you see here, it's a very simple calculator. It's a bad one at that, right? So if I hover over the +3 and I click it, you see here that 3 gets added to my results. I keep doing that and it does the 3. I can go by 9s and do +9. I can subtract but only by -2, or I can just go ahead and reset it by pressing the 0. Obviously, this calculator works in the sense, right? It does do arithmetic, and I'm able to display this on my screen. But this is a pretty trash calculator, right? This is not going to help me out on anything. So this is going to be your job and responsibility to make this into a functional calculator. So by the end of this exercise, you will have a fully functional calculator application that you yourself will finish. Now, your end product should look something fairly similar to this. You're going to take that bad calculator and you're going to make it into a pretty decent basic calculator, right? Which you can find pretty much on your laptop right now if you open up the calculator. I don't expect anything fancy, just your basic plus, minus, multiplication, and division. It doesn't have to be the same color scheme if you want to make it personal. If you want to personalize it, by all means. But it should look something fairly similar to this or as polished as this, right? So hopefully, you get everything working. Um, and it looks something similar to this. Now, who has questions about this assignment?
Mm,
Yes.
I guess when my brain's going over how I might do this, the equal sign might be the one that I get stuck on.
Right.
Any hints?
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk. I want you to walk me through what is your calculator doing as you work through it. What is like, how is it functioning? What's happening when you press the button, right? If you're getting two numbers and I'm telling you to add them to me, what are your what is being displayed on the screen? What can you see? When does it disappear? When does it appear? At what press of a button? What is your typical functionality of a calculator? Well,
Mm,
I'll walk you through it. I should be able to have this calculator and there's nothing on my screen. Some calculators, if you turn them on, it starts off with a zero, right? Like the very basic ones might have just start off like a zero there, or you might not have nothing. When I'm ready to type something in, I might press numbers and it starts being displayed on my screen. Every number I add additionally, it might push the number to the left, right? And it adds it to the end of my display. So think about that, right? If I am pressing numbers and I haven't pressed any arithmetic button like plus, minus, multiplication, or division, how should my display interact? Well, if I have a number on the screen, no plus, minus, multiplication, or division has been added, and I keep pressing number buttons, the functionality of my display should be automatically inject that number to the very end of my display, pushing it to the side over and over again, give me that appearance of the calculator. I should be able to do that until one, I run out of space, or until I press a button like plus. The moment I press the button plus, what typically happens? Well, you might not visually see it, but I'm going to go ahead and make an assumption here that your calculator is kind of storing that number somewhere on the side. Like, okay, Alex just typed out the number 500 and he just pressed the plus symbol. So I'm going to go ahead and grab what's on the display right now, and I'm going to store it away to the side. And now if he presses another number after this, I'm going to erase what I have on my screen because I already know I safely saved it to the side somewhere and I'm not going to lose it. He pressed the plus sign, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe the screen and continue to add a new number, right? If he decides to add another plus sign, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab this number and I'm going to put this on the side with the other number he had earlier. Maybe put it in some kind of a list structure where I can start keeping count of this. Or let's say he already had a number, he pressed the plus sign, added the second number, and now he pressed the equal sign. So now I should be able to grab the previous number, this number, add them up, and then show that result on the screen and possibly wipe whatever variables I have saved up, right? This is kind of how you're thinking about, or how you should be thinking about your calculator when you're creating this program. What is your calculator doing, and how does it look like in code, right? How should the calculator work, and how can I mimic that in code? Does that make sense, Alex, or do you have any specific question?
no, I think I'm gonna try to run
All
with
right.
all that info.
Some tips. Keep it simple right off the bat. I would get some boxes on there. They don't have to be perfectly aligned. They don't have to be massive. No colors. Nothing crazy. Get the numbers on there. One through nine or 0 through 9. Plus, minus, multiplication, division, and then once you got everything on there, just so you can kind of make out what it is, get something on the screen, as in like your calculator screen. Once you got something out there, work on addition only, just addition, and then you can add on to it as you go. With only one or two numbers, and then once you get that down, try adding something like multiple numbers, like 5 numbers or 10 numbers. Slow and steady. Get something on the screen first, like your numbers and symbols, and then work on only the plus sign. And once you got everything working functionality wise, so you can go back and make it look pretty. All right.
Okay. Got it.
Anybody else have any questions before we finish off for now?
Nope.
All right,
Not yet.
That's gonna be the official lecture. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause it in case anyone wants me to record anything that comes afterwards. But we do have 30 minutes left, so I'm gonna go ahead and sit here and we're gonna take the last 30 minutes to work on it.